Give these truly the right health.
You're the best. Thank you. This is the best way I can think to spend it.
32.
I wouldn't go back there in a bit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is really neat. This is really cool.
Yeah, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Set up professional audio and audio settings. Yeah, I don't have enough aggravation for that.
He called me actually.
All right.
About to talk to you. And said,
Yeah, thank you.
What's this? Oh, this is money.
Doesn't matter. You're excited.
Okay.
Hey, you leaving?
Yeah.
I can keep going.
You're welcome to hang out. Yeah, that'd be great.
Hey. Good seeing you. Yeah.
He's on.
Okay, hello everybody, welcome back. There is food still outside. It's not coming home with us, so please make sure you either eat it or take it with you, or college students are supposed to eat. I think I guess in some ways we should have ended with our last, with the one that we just had before, because I don't think we could have a more significant message that we could ask you to leave with than what we just did, but we didn't decide to do that. We wanted to offer you kind of a moving forward momentum for the last couple sessions that we have. So right now what we want to talk about is also kind of a really sensitive topic, which is getting paid what you're worth. And I don't know about you guys, I have a really hard time knowing what I'm worth. And I am totally someone who was here at Ohio State, and I'll be frank with you, getting paid less than other people were getting paid. And, at Ohio State, we have the great benefit that our salaries are public. And so you look them up and you realize you're getting paid less than other people are. And it takes a lot of balls to go in and say, you're not paying me what I'm worth, and it's time to do that, or I'm going to seek other opportunities. And if you're lucky, people respond to that and your life gets better. And sometimes it doesn't, and you have to make choices. So good news on that one is that things worked out and I'm still here. But when you're in the creative space, it's very easy for people to think, oh, well, I can use Photoshop a little bit, so what you do isn't that important. Or I can shoot with my phone and I can edit on there, so what you do as a photographer isn't that important, or as a videographer isn't that important. I could do it. So either do it for free, or they lowball you, or they do all kinds of things. And so I want these guys to help you see the value that you bring, the value that you have to insist upon in order to maintain the status really for the people who come behind you, to make sure that you're not someone who gives away the skills that people really deserve to pay for. And so Russ, just if we could run through, just kind of introduce ourselves again real quick. Sure. Because we've been here. And then Emily, of course, is our newbie, but she's our star because she's just got hired. Russ?
Russ Hoflick, creative director of video services for athletics. We, operate, manage the video boards, do streaming for Big Ten Plus, and then also do creative content for 33 of the 36 sports here at Ohio State.
David, I don't want to keep talking, but I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the side of being the person getting paid, being the person having to pay the creative. So I feel like I offer a decent perspective on both sides of it.
Sammy Silverman. I own and operate Sammy Silver Inc., which is my independent creative studio. Used to work within Ohio State athletics and oversaw Ohio State football creative media for a bit. Also been on all ends of clawing to get paid, begging to get paid, and also paying others, and also figuring out what your worth is in the freelance world.
I'm Emily Dean. I'm a video producer / liaison for Ohio State Digital. Huh? Not anymore. Not anymore for the next 2 days. But I recently accepted a director of creative content position at LSU, so I'll be moving down there next week. So where my previous position, I was kind of limited to being like a creative content contributor. I'll have a little bit more responsibility and flexibility in strategizing like where that content goes and whatnot. So that's exciting.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay, Chris Harizopoulos. I've been talking a lot, but I'll be an open book here for this topic. I feel that it's very, it's important to be transparent about our livelihood, which is our time and effort, which we get paid for.
You want?
Am I?
I'm not sure.
Should I just speak louder? All right, awesome. But yeah, I mean, if anyone here has any questions, you know, I'm happy to answer to my ability the best I can. And you have an amazing panel here with a ton of experience. So I think this topic's gonna be really exciting.
So I have many students who are getting ready to graduate every year, and every year they think that they will leave here with two things: their dream job, and they will make at least $60,000 a year. So how realistic is that if you want to work in the creative space?
I would manage those expectations. It's not that you couldn't get that. It's just college athletics is in a point right now where that is the standard. In a lot of industries, yes, an entry-level job is $60,000. In college athletics, graphic design, and I'm sure other departments, it's not. When I was hired full-time for Ohio State Athletics, I was making $36,000 a year. So that was my first job out of school, which is a livable wage in Columbus, but it is a lot of money. You know, you can support yourself on it. So yeah, I would just, you know, manage your expectations. And a lot of it does come to research though. Like, you know, don't be afraid to negotiate when you have the opportunity to understand what is the average salary of the position you are applying to or interested in. There are resources out there. Like Nicole said, public salaries. I remember when I was pitching to Urban Meyer on why I should be full-time and not just make $1,000 a month as a stipend, you know, as a full-time intern. I had to research and figure out, okay, what is the competitive landscape amongst my colleagues and where do I rank? Obviously I rank very, very probably the bottom, you know, considering a lot of people I was looking at full-time jobs. But it does give you a good frame of reference and some good data to point to and be like, look, these people, do you consider me less, more, equal to these people? This is what they're making and this is what I'm making. And disparity is unequal. So yeah, a lot of it is just kind of educating yourself and making sure you do have some facts and statistics to back up, you know, the numbers that you're presenting.
Emily, maybe you could help us, if you're willing, as much as you're willing to do. What is it like when you are interviewing for a job? Where does salary come in? When they offer you a job, where does salary come in? And what was your first reaction when all that information came your way?
Yeah. Well, I guess to kind of back up, this year, I'm currently in like a freelance work 9 months out of the year kind of role at Big Ten Network. I was hired in 2018 at $22 an hour, which I guess if you only work 40 hours a week, I think that comes out to maybe like 33, 35K a year or something like that, which full transparency, I did not make. But, I made more than that because I was working overtime, which had conversations with my boss, like, you're the highest earner on our team. It's like, well, but it's because I'm also like logging 50, 60 hours a week. But, so I came into this year, with some financial struggles. We were unemployed for 5 months out of 2020 when the football season was like initially canceled and then postponed and whatnot. And I, for whatever reason, didn't qualify for as much unemployment as some people did. So my savings was torched, and I was put in a financial situation where, the money was great when I was first hired at BTN, and I was only paying maybe $600 a rent, a month with utilities included and all that stuff. But since then, God forbid I wanted to move on the other side of campus where there's a lot of crime on the east side of High Street, as soon as classes started back up this past season. So I just had to factor in my cost of living and was I definitely want more for myself. And yes, it's been such an honor and a pleasure getting to work at my alma mater, immediately after graduation, but it's okay to also want more for myself. And I think it is kind of hard in this industry to kind of find a decent step up from like that entry level position to something that isn't necessarily like a director of content where you're like managing like a whole team of people, or like, I'm not ready to be like a Russ yet.
Soon.
Maybe in a couple years, but I'm not ready for that yet. So once I'd kind of done my thing through football season, like got a lot like better footage throughout the year, I wanted to redo my reel and portfolio and all that stuff and put myself back out on the job market. And as soon as I like put out my reel and started piecing together my portfolio, I did actually have like some people reaching out to me. One of those entities wanted to, two of them actually were like, hey, we really like your reel and portfolio. Would you like to interview with us? Or like we have these positions that we're getting ready to post, like, would you have any interest? And so I kind of like had a couple questions about the jobs beforehand, and that's immediately when I kind of asked about their hiring salary range. I don't think that that is something that you should be afraid to bring up initially, because if it's not posted on their website, like you just need to know.
Yeah, why would you spend so much time talking about a job when you don't even know how much it pays? Like, it just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
You're not there to waste each other's time. And I actually,
And why don't they advertise that? Why is that not something that we put out there,
Great question.
start from the start?
which like you said at the very beginning, like we have the advantage of like if there's an entity that's like a public college, like you can look up what people in the department make. It's also more or less, to me, kind of a red flag if you can like look up people that you would have potentially worked with at that department and there's no public salary information for like 2019 or 2020 because they haven't been there that long. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I worked at a company who freelanced out a lot of people, and we had a private rates sheet. And I can tell you this, they were all over the place. And some of the most talented people were getting paid the least. You know, like companies, unfortunately, the harsh reality is some of them will use that information. They want it to be private.
It's very appropriate to just ask, you know, you don't need to come right out there and be like,
Yeah.
what's this job pay? But like to phrase it, saying, hey, I didn't see a salary range on the application. Would you mind sharing what the salary range for this position is? And that way you're not, focused on one number. When you say range, it's good because then, typically it is a range. Sometimes it might be huge. I've seen a range where it's like, well, 30 to 80K, depending on your experience. It's like, that's just like two different
I'll take it.
strategies.
Those are like 3 different job
Yeah.
levels right there,
But-
like in itself.
Point is don't be afraid to ask, just, phrase it professionally appropriate, what we've been talking about all day. Everything's need to be approached in a respectful manner. And it's not going to not get you a job to ask how much does the job pay, because that is crucial, critical information you need to know for your own purposes.
There and Sam's right. There could be a salary range. Don't be afraid if you want, look, they didn't disclose a salary at first. You might have a salary number in mind. If your salary number in mind is above the range that they're presenting, it's perfectly acceptable to have a responsible conversation about meeting what you're expecting. They could say yes, they could say no, but it's not unheard of to where the company wants to work with you, the individual, and the creator, and bump, well, you know what, maybe we were shooting at 80, but if you need 85 or 90 to make this happen, then we'll do it.
Or clarify the job responsibilities. I remember like Twitter was blowing up a couple months ago about this like director of graphic design position that was posted at like 35K. And it's like, well, that's not a director of graphic design position. That's like an entry level assistant, associate, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see this more in college athletics, specifically. I feel like it's specifically when it's hiring for like a sport, like within football, within a big basketball program. is they'll try to lure you with titles like director, assistant director, where you're not actually to be a director level one, like very rarely right out of college can you just don't have the life experience of like director is managing people. That's very different than being a graphic designer. So when you're director, you should have management experience. And the problem is, let's say you do sign it, you get this job that's labeled as director, but you're the only one there. So who are you directing? And then on your resume, it says director, and then you go and apply for another job at the director level, and they ask you about what's your management style, how many years of experience you have managing people. What are you going to say? Your resume is now misleading. So just be careful when you read the descriptions on what you're actually doing. Because also there's also descriptions where you're expected to be graphic designer, motion designer, photographer, videographer. Stay away from that.
Yeah.
That is way too many hats to wear. And there are places, we've all done it, where working for Ohio State, I just kind of started picking up the camera and started running social media. So I took those jobs on my own and wore those hats. And I can tell you from my experience, and that was my dream job, it is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable lifestyle to try and do everything and be everything. And it's really a disservice for companies to expect that.
One thing too, sorry to touch on that, Sandy. So I think the thing that as young students coming into this, you gotta be mindful of what Sandy said, right? But then we also have to think from their side, Sandy, where getting that experience might be helpful to understand where you want to go, right? So maybe if you're doing 2 or 3 or 4 different things, that might help you really understand, okay, well, I like this path better, then you can maybe make an opportunity from there. But yeah, to Sandy's point, you're gonna find some of those opportunities that there's tons of different responsibilities on it, but I think you guys, one, like you mentioned, understand what that is, but then 2, if you're comfortable with it, right? I think that's what we keep saying, we keep talking about, we can't make a decision. We're up here talking about our experiences, but you guys make a decision, okay, I'm comfortable having these 3 different responsibilities, and maybe that does lead to you saying, all right, well, I do like photography, I'm gonna pick that up and whatnot. Then just deciding when it makes sense to transition, talk to your boss, whatever that might be. Sorry.
No, it's very fair. Is whatever you're comfortable with. When I first started doing 15-hour days at OSU, I loved it because I love Ohio State football. It's I'm a diehard fan of Ohio State. I went to Ohio State. I live and breathe Ohio State. So I love being around the team, being around the coaches in that environment. But as you get older, your priorities change, responsibilities change, and it just I'll keep using the word. It's just not sustainable. Meaning that type of demand for the hours and the expectations just takes a toll on you physically and mentally. That's really hard to recover from at times.
Yeah, I mean, what you want to do starting out is you want to learn, right? Because there might be a job out there that requires 5 to 8 years experience that pays $100,000, but a large reason they're paying $100,000 is because there might be this very obscure instance where something dramatic happens and they need somebody who's experienced to take care of that instance in a responsible way. So that's why the price might be $100,000. That does not mean you cannot make $100,000. Now look, it's a long shot, right? Let's be realistic, but you still can do it. I mean, the resources are there. The information is there to learn how, because you get paid with talent, experience, right? And what you've done. And really who you are. I want to work with you as a person, the brand that you built, right? So here's an opportunity. Let's see if we can work together. So just because there are jobs out there that might have an inflated price, but might require 5 to 8 years experience that you might not be qualified for, does not mean you can't put in extra work to research for the information to try to find the right fit or an opportunity that you're fighting for, and you could get that. Now look, there are entry-level salaries, right? And the only thing that replaces experience is more experience. But there's so much opportunity and value out there. I think the conversation has definitely changed in the last couple of years, especially since the pandemic started. We've learned a lot. And there's just more out there for us to seek. When I first started 10 years ago, I was doing work for free, and it was really shitty work. And then I was doing really shitty work getting paid for it, and it sucked. And then I started getting better, and I started doing decent work for a very low price. And my journey, I look back at it now, it would have been much different today if I would have started off compared to 10 or so years ago. right? And I look back and I think that a lot of my work was fairly similar from 5 years ago till now. And I was getting paid a fraction of what I was getting paid now. And a lot of it has to do with not knowing the information that's really out there. I still to this day get surprised with how much you can get for the work you do. You could be, I know student workers right now that can get paid $3,000 for 40 hours of work, like a week's worth of work, $4,000 for a week's worth of work. Illustrators, photographers, videographers, like it can happen. So don't allow the narrative of you don't have the experience, you can't get that sum of money, which it is true to an extent. Don't allow that to refrain you from, shooting your shot and finding an opportunity where you can get paid well.
Yeah, so I think about my specific situation. It was 5 years ago going into Ohio State basketball. The narrative at Ohio State basketball was, hey, no manager or student who's ever worked for the program has ever been paid. So why should you be any different? And that, I swear this was 5 years ago, like only 5 years ago, and that was the thing. Now today, I just met the 2 basketball interns who are students, both getting paid $15 an hour, I think. And I mean, it's inspiring hearing Sammy and Emily talk about fighting for what you're worth. Because if you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for the industry in general.
Yeah.
And kind of the people who are coming behind you. And then when you might not be a student anymore, but when you're 25, that's going to pay back to you because the industry as a whole is going to be more value. And Chris talks about it too a lot. Like, we got to stick together as a community because we're all fighting for each other's value to collectively be kind of raised up.
So one thing about money, talking about, different rates and things like that. I did see a job at USC that paid $100,000 a year. Is that a lot of money at USC?
Mm-hmm. You like Southern California, you're saying? Yeah, so I was actually approached about that job.
At South Carolina, holy shit.
Yeah, so that's another
That's Justin
thing.
King's job.
So another thing you have to consider is cost of living. The cost of living in LA is about 150 to 200% more than the cost of living in Columbus. Making $100,000 in LA is probably like making 60 to 70K here. So when you are, thinking of, I've seen people go from Ohio State to LA, not to like work with USC, but they went from making 70K in Columbus to making 100K in LA, and it seems like a jump, but proportionally, when you factor in all the cost of living and how just rent is more expensive in LA, it was actually a lateral move pay-wise. So that is one thing to consider. Same with like Chicago, New York, those very expensive areas to live. You want to make sure that the salary can meet the cost of living. I remember when I was working for free at OSU, I was a volunteer intern to start, and I went to New York just because I didn't really know what else to do. I needed to get some money, so I was interviewing at this place, and I ended up doing some free work there just to as like a test, which I don't recommend ever doing spec work. I despise that concept. But then they came back and they were like, hey, we're going to offer you $25K to come out to New York. $25K in New York you'll probably be homeless. My brother who lived there is like the minimum you could make in New York to scrape by is like 50K. And I told the company, I had brought in research. I was saying, just for an entry-level graphic design position, I said, hey, New Yorkers for entry-level graphic design positions is like around 40 to 50K, like sometimes even 60. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. And then you just got to cut because like, at what cost? That's a question you got to ask yourself. Even your dream job, like at what cost? How long or how much are you willing to go? How far are you willing to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, and Sam's right, and to go the opposite direction too, like a lot of these hiring companies, they might have like a pool of money that they have to disperse to a handful of positions, right? And they might present a position at like $60,000. But it doesn't mean that they can't go out. There is subjectivity behind it. There really is. Every job that I've ever had, literally every job in my professional career, at Intersport, at Notre Dame football, Ohio State football, and the NBA, and then some freelance work, I've never settled for the base amount that they've offered. I've always gotten more. And it's fine. Like you have the opportunity, you have the power to do that. It is, we mentioned this earlier in the day. We'll say it again. Do you think it's hard finding a job? It's hard finding people to work. It's really hard. And some companies are not just desperate, but like they will spend money to get the right fits in. They will spend money to get people in. Like that is a fact, right? And like they might go up 5,000, 10,000, 15, 25. Like they seriously might go up and spend that money to secure that position. It costs companies so much money to hire people and to have vacant positions open. It's a lot of money. HR positions are running thin now because companies are having to use third-party HR companies to help fulfill position. That costs a ton of money to do. So it's in the best interest of a company to give a little more upfront for the salary range and secure the position than trying to find people to fulfill that position, to extending the process. You would be surprised. And it's okay to to Sam's point earlier, I did not see the salary range. And may you provide that, or what would the salary range be, and they can give it. And it's perfectly acceptable to say, thank you. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, like if somebody said, and I'll do this too, negotiating. What's the budget for this project? We're thinking $10,000 to $12,000. Okay, I looked at the scope of work. We're not too far off. Like my scope is between 12 and 15 on this project, right? And then they're relieved, and then they're willing to work with you. To your point earlier, Sam, about okay, let's meet in the middle. Let's definitely scope out the job. That happens in freelance. That happens in finding a job in many different areas. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You can go on to the next one. It's just a matter of how much, if you're willing to travel, right? If you're willing to relocate. And I'll tell you this much too. If you're working remote for a company in New York and they want to pay you less because you live in the city of Columbus, man, don't even fight for that money. Don't allow them to do that. The money's already there. They're telling you, well, no, you don't have to incur living expenses. No, well, this is not for my living expenses. This is for my time. This is for my experience. This is for my talent. I still deserve that.
Yeah, and on that point, as you're listing off those, it's how do you determine your value? And this can go for whatever you're doing, whether it's freelance and you're independent, or you're trying to get a raise or negotiate for a full-time position somewhere. From a freelance perspective, when people talk about what's your rate, you always think of hourly rate, and there's so many different ways. Like when you work in the freelance world, there's so many different kinds of rates. There's your fixed fee for just, general project, general deliverables, what is the fixed cost of that? But then there's also you can do an hourly rate if clients like that. You can do a day rate where they literally buy the entire day, or you can do a week rate. But there's a lot of factors to consider. And I mentioned this book in the previous panel, but Freelance and Business and Stuff is very helpful, where they listed a lot of criteria that I thought was really eye-opening to determining your value and your rate. And it's determining how many hours it might take is one small factor. Your experience is another factor. The complexity of the project is another factor. Like a one-off poster for the spring fling might not hold as much weight as a logo for a company that's supposed to stand the test of time. The one's more of a momentary event, and the other's supposed to be lasting and forever. Those hold different weights in value. Also, the type of work. Illustrative work might be a little different weighted than Photoshop work. It just all depends on the selected skill. And yeah, when you're thinking about all that, and also the scale of client too. You can have your mom and pop shops and your local clients. They're not going to have the big corporate budgets that the 50 grand budgets that the big corporations will have. And it's important to just understand that. And lastly, I'm here to say that if any of you ever do want to go off on your own, and you do have hesitation because how am I going to make that money? Is there even money to be made? You can make money. Freelancing, you can make a lot of money. You can make 6 figures. You can make 7 figures. It takes a lot of work, but it is absolutely possible.
So we have a question, which I think might be a very specific, but it's an important topic that many of us will experience. How would you approach negotiating your salary after being established at your job for a season when additional duties have been added and your company did not do a 6-month review for your salary that was discussed during the interview process.
I mean, I think that's pretty straightforward. It sounds like the information's there to present immediately. And look, like, don't stand in your own way. Like it's really important to address, right? Especially if, you know, you should be getting paid more, and they should have talked to you first off, and at least acknowledge that, hey, we're looking to add more responsibility to this position, right? They should at least had a conversation to hear you out as well. I personally think that's bad business, but it can't be left unsaid. So I would responsibly put together information that you can present to your boss and be communicative here. Like you don't want to overstep anything, but you still need to be communicative. You present it to your boss and learn how you can present it to your boss's boss or whomever can make that impact, whether it's the athletic department or the finance department or whatever, right? You'll experience, I mean, in my experience, you know, you're gonna get pushback for sure. Oh, the money's not there. Oh, it's gonna take forever. Oh, this is how it always was. Oh, we just can't afford it because of the pandemic. No, like, look, people have money to spend, right? People definitely have money to spend. And if you can't get the money up front, then get your time back or take some responsibility off of your plate, right? Because I don't think it's fair to be doing more work for the same amount of pay and not even having the opportunity to have that conversation up front.
We've had some similar situations here lately, and that has been the response. You know, if the pay is not going to increase, then we're going to change the level of responsibility because it's not fair. It's not fair. So it's good to have that discussion. I mean, you know, all, like Chris said, all the information's there. You know, set up a meeting with your boss, be prepared, have a good conversation, and see where it goes.
And look, having less responsibility, it could be a great thing. Like it could actually free up time to find even a better position or more work or something different. Like a lot of people tend to feel a little threatened. Like I you know, back in when I first started, like I'd feel threatened. No, you're taking responsibility away from me. Like that sucks. What did I do wrong? No, you didn't do anything wrong. Like we're actually rewarding you by taking responsibility off, right? So that can be a blessing in disguise.
So I think we need to address the elephant in the room, which is the unpaid internship. And it was mentioned, but it is prevalent. I mean, it's not even like, well, it happens sometimes. Like it happens every day. It happens on this campus every day. And in fact, I had a conversation with someone in a department that shall not be named, and they said, yeah, we don't pay our interns. We don't want anyone to know that because we get in trouble. So they knew it was a problem. In fact, they didn't give their students like access to their building without somebody letting them in, because if they were to give them that access, then they'd have to put them on the books and they'd have to know that they weren't paying them. But you're super lucky because you get to work in an amazing place like Ohio State or an amazing place like Temple Athletics or wherever it's going to be.
The prestige, I know they try to sell you on the prestige, you know, working here at Ohio State, prestige, and you know, it's all great, and we'll get you a free shirt or something.
I feel like places like that, if you're not going to pay your interns, you better make damn sure that once they're graduated that they're off making at least $50K somewhere else. Like you need to put them in that position to where they can leave with.
Well, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah.
I mean, especially, you know, let's just get, and I mean, I'm throwing out Ohio State basketball because it sounds like they're paying their interns, which is great. So
yeah, they are now. Yeah,
so they did before, and so you get the chance to work at Ohio State basketball. You work with Joe. You have these incredible experiences. And how many times people have said to me, and Joe, maybe they said to you, well, you can't buy an experience like this. Like that's how you're getting paid is the experience.
But you should have the conversation, and I'll bring up David because he told that story. I forgot about that until he told it. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Kyle Davis and I were talking, and I knew about David and knew that he wasn't getting paid. And I said to Kyle, like, that's ridiculous. That's like, I'll tell you what, I will pay him to work for basketball. So I actually hired David on my staff, and then he still worked for basketball to get him because it was. I hate that. It makes me mad. So
how
I think
do
you should be getting
handle
paid
that?
something.
I mean, and I think we can all agree that should is the opposite word.
Yeah.
But when you're among these people and they have great opportunity, but they say to them, look, we'd love to welcome you here, but you're not going to get paid. Do you take it? Do you not take it? Are you hindering yourself? Because if you, you know, Ohio State basketball, you can put on your resume and that will help you get a job. So is that investing in yourself, even though the dividend may come later?
I mean, I think you gotta be comfortable with whatever decision you make. I mean, that's the investment you make. And yeah, there are positives between both. My personal opinion is yes, you should get paid. All interns, student workers should get paid 100%. I think it's complete bullshit that a company will stick their chest out and say, hey, we're so-and-so, so that's why I don't get paid. That happens a million times to any single company. Hey, we're Purdue Calumet, we have 15,000 students, so you're lucky to work for us. No, it should be a relationship, right? There's two sides here, right? I just, it's not, you have to look at yourself in the mirror. If you want to get paid, you go to the job and you talk to them about it. And then that's all you can do. If they really want to pay you, they'll pay you. If they don't, then do you want to leave your dream job or your dream scenario to do something different? Is it worth it? And then you have to just allow yourself to be okay with whatever answer you come up with.
Yeah, I think it's all situational and personal preference. I did do that. I accepted an unpaid internship for a multitude of reasons. I didn't have anything else going in my field. I was working at a pizza shop post-grad when I graduated Ohio State, which I didn't want to do. But even when I did the free work at Ohio State, the unpaid internship, I was still working at the pizza shop to pay the bills. I was trying to freelance to pay the bills. So I mean, I don't regret any of that. I am definitely I think anyone should be paid for their time, effort, and resources, no matter the level, because everyone's time, resources, efforts, ideas are valuable. But it just comes down to, are you okay with that? I was okay with working for free for a little bit. Because I wanted to be in Ohio State. I didn't have any internship experience throughout school. So it was my first chance to really get into an office setting, understand, what it's like having a boss. I just, in the creative world, I was only used to having a boss in the pizza world. So I just wanted, what is the creative world like? But, it comes down to what is your situation? Are you able, can you afford to do that? And for me, I loved Ohio State enough where I really wanted that opportunity and it worked out for me. But, my situation and what I wanted out of it is different than everyone else's. So.
Yes.
For the folks who do the freelance work, if you have a continual client, I know each project, each design is slightly different. If you have a client asking the same things over and over again, when do you raise your rate?
I mean, it depends on the relationship with the client. Usually every year I like to evaluate my rates. I don't want to raise them on clients throughout the year and it become unreasonable and kind of blindsiding. So I like to take a year and just evaluate, do I feel like this is what I'm worth? Do I feel like it's more because I have another year under my belt? And also just let the client, if you're in a retainer, it just all depends on the contract too, because you could be in a retainer relationship where there's agreed upon rate for every month or the entire year. And maybe you have a clause built in where it's at 6 months, we have a review to see if it's still working, to see if the pay is still there, and maybe that might be a renegotiation. But for me, typically, I look annually at raising rates.
Yeah, I mean, it's a professional environment, right? You expect the client to be professional, they expect you to be professional, you should be communicative, right? And I'll be honest with you, I just had an instance where I'm doing the same work with a client and it's gotten to the point where I don't want to do it for this price anymore. I want to raise it. So how do you responsibly communicate that with the client? Say, hey, appreciate these opportunities. I want to let you know that I'm happy to continue doing this work. I am reevaluating my rates, and I'll put this in front of you before we continue on additional work. That's a professional way to handle it. It's fine. And we know, and I know you know this, they're going to say yes or no, or they're going to work out different terms with you. And I personally seen the light of all three, where either they said no, or they said yes, or we've met in the middle. So, I mean, I don't, to Sam's point, yeah, I think it's super smart to do it annually, especially with inflation being at all
Yeah, people raise rates of value, you know,
Yeah.
you're paying more for Doritos, they didn't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or like if for some reason Adobe wants to raise their suite package,
Yeah.
the CC to 200 a month, well then
That's
that's
just business.
yeah, it's just business, exactly. It's just business. So I think it's open grounds. Me personally, whenever or wherever, as long as you're not pulling the rug underneath them, even though it's happening to you with life, I think it's open grounds for you to be able to have that conversation whenever the hell you want to have that conversation.
Other questions? All right, so we're a little bit over time, but I think we're just gonna segue into our closing time here. And I see many of our mentors have come, so I'm super excited about connecting you all with them. So if you could leave us all with, I don't know, and I say this with the utmost love, and I'm projecting what I would be feeling if I were you guys, which is, God, this is great advice, and you guys are amazing people, but I can't do this. Like, I'm not gonna go into Ohio State basketball and say like, pay me money or I'm not gonna do it for you. Like, I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna, you know, but I'll be honest, I may be not in a financial position, so, you know, my firm belief is every intern should be paid because it's discriminatory, and it hinders people who cannot afford to have their parents, or, you know, say we work at a pizza shop, like, you know, I mean, they said unpaid internships, and I can afford for him to do that. A lot of people can't do that. So recognizing that people feel powerless, like they're not confident enough to say, put their foot down. What is a realistic first step? If you want to get in this business, you want to have an internship, you can't afford to do it unpaid, what do you do?
To me, I think,
Thank God.
to me, I honestly think in the world we live in today, with all the outlets to post your work, whether you're a graphic designer, a videographer, photographer, I think it was mentioned, I don't remember which session, but take that time, go work at the pizza shop, go Uber drive, and do your own thing from the creative lane until you get to the point where you find that right client or that right employer that puts you in the situation. Because I'll tell you, if they don't value you, that's not the right employer, and that's not the right client. So you might have to grind a little bit and work your way around it. But if it doesn't feel right to you, like Chris said, then that's not right for you. And you gotta just be you and follow that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in today's day and age, with how many tools you have to work on your own stuff and be a freelancer, if you don't get an opportunity right away out of school, do your own stuff. I mean, yeah, like work a part-time job to pay the bills, and then, you know, maybe you launch a clothing company or something on the side, or you know, take a couple little freelance projects from like your mom and dad's friends that are looking for some things. There's so many different outlets you could do to compensate for, you know, finances. If you don't get an opportunity right away in, you know, full-time employee somewhere, you can totally go off on your own and pave your own path, and maybe, you know, a door will open down the road. But, you know, in that, what I think I've learned most is in the working world, employers love initiative. Like, it takes so much courage to say, hey, I would like to get paid a little bit more, or paid at all, no matter what, even if it's unfair. Like, it takes courage to go to your boss, a superior, and say that, because you don't want to mess up anything that you have. You don't want to lose the job, but they respect that. It's totally fair. Everyone that you're talking to has probably been you before, you know, crawling, scratching their way up. Like, so, you know, I wouldn't be afraid. And I understand, like, I get nervous before any public speaking I do, and I've done it hundreds of times, but it's just naturally me. I'm an anxious person. So, like, practice that too. We talk about these reps, interview reps. I equivalent everything to working out. It's all about reps. You know, when you first work out, your form's terrible, you can't lift a lot of weight, you look stupid, but as you keep going, you get more comfortable with it. So when you're doing public speaking, you literally practice in the mirror, practice to some friends. If you want to negotiate a rate, you know, bounce the idea off some, practice it with someone, just so, like, when you are in the situation, you know your talking points and you're confident and you have some conviction, so then people will take you seriously.
Yeah, like we don't have up here all the answers. I know there's so much I don't know. I don't know anything. Like there's only a few things I do know, you know, and what I do know is like, don't allow the idea of not being perfect get in the way of progress. Don't allow not knowing all the answers or not having the shiniest camera or how to build a logo stop you from trying to build a logo. Like don't allow that to happen. Because when you allow that to happen, it prevents you from getting new opportunity. There's so much opportunity out there, and most of it you're not going to get because of yourself, because your fears that are irrational, that you just build up in your head. So don't allow that to happen. Like it's okay. Like things are going to. You're one person. You're gonna. You know, there's so much out there. They don't have to be in the way that you think they're going to be for you to be successful. Right? That's the advice I would give, because we're all still learning. Like, I'm still learning. There's 17-year-olds out there that can do things I can't do. It's amazing. And also, yeah, to David, to your point, like there was a 17-year-old designer who posted something, and I don't know why I did this, but I literally just copied the link and sent it to an agency I do work with. And I said, hey, look out for this person. They're really talented, and they might be freelancing soon. I don't know why I did that. Like what prompted me to do that? But I still did it. So like, you never know when you put yourself out there and put yourself open for those positions to be discovered. And then you have new opportunity you never thought would happen, does happen. I mean, things still shock me to this day. Like I think, oh, okay, I have a grasp on how I'm going to negotiate, how I'm going to budget. And then I realize, like, do you know there's designers out there who get paid $600,000 a year to work at 10 companies or startups? $600,000 a year. And a lot of it has to do with the amount of liability they take. It's not about how good of design they are or what they know. It's about liability. Like it's nuts. It blows your mind. So like there's so much out there. Like don't allow not knowing it to prevent you from pursuing new opportunity or doing what you want to do.
Real quick, just because this is just an inspiration. One of the first people I hired when I was working for OSU was a kid straight out of high school. His name's Kenton Hessler. And it's because he had this body of OSU work. He was just a diehard OSU fan, just making graphics for fun. No one told him to do it, wasn't getting paid to do it. But when I was looking for an intern, he was just posting his work. He was shooting me messages saying, hey, I love your work. Look at my fan work. And then when there's an internship opening, I was like, you know, the level of work is definitely there for this high school. Like I was blown away. And we hired him straight out of high school. And he didn't have any like internship experience, full-time experience or anything. And now he's the art director for Athletes First, which is one of the biggest sports talent agencies in the world. And he's out in LA living the dream. And still, no, and I'm not saying like, I'm not devaluing college education or anything. I'm saying like, I'm saying he took his shot. And it was all just from reaching out and taking that initiative.
I also want to say, I mean, 20 years ago when I started out, I would have done anything to get into this career, and I would have worked for free. And if that is the path that you take, like you can't find anything and you really are hungry for it and you're going to work for free, they're using you, you use them. You use them and get all of the experience that you possibly can out of that. You create content for you, for your purposes. You know, I know you're doing work for them, but use them to help you out later on. So that way you're only there for a couple of years and you can move on into your own career.
Yeah, build your brand off of those.
Round of applause. All right, well, maybe we could segue directly into Andy and Dave coming back up. You guys don't go too far. Where do we go next from here?
Yeah, I'm sorry, down on Monday.
And while we're doing that, just a
Spring game's
reminder
not
that we do have spring game tickets
Brian
available. So if anybody would like to-
I actually will a lot because,
and I will happily transfer them.
Thank you. Sorry.
LSU's on.
We have about 35 of them left, so if anybody wants to please claim it. And then afterwards, I see Corey is here, Kyle is up here. We have Addison here. Addison. So I'm gonna ask them to introduce themselves when we're done. They're here to help you move forward from this moment. So if you're interested in an internship or you're interested in getting mentorship for your portfolio, for photography, for social, for graphics, whatever. These are all people, the people who you've heard from already, and the people who join us now are here to help you make those networking connections that are going to be so very important moving forward. So welcome.
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Nicole. So we're going to keep this quick. It's really what we're trying to do next here, just really recap what you guys learned today. So when I started, I asked you guys to write down one goal for you guys. Now, how many of you guys accomplished that goal today? One. How many wrote down the goal? All right, come on. So you have 30 minutes right after this to accomplish that goal, right? Like I said, be intentional while you're here. So make sure you're connecting with awesome freaking people here today. Like Nicole said, I mean, as you guys experienced, we have a pretty awesome panel today. So make sure you are reaching out to them after this. We have half an hour, I believe, to really do all that. Accomplish that goal that you wrote down because it's important. So really what I'm going to just do right now, just really quick recap what we did. So resume readiness. Match your experiences with the job you're applying for, right? Ensure that you have a portfolio and the links work, spelling is correct. Mary Kate mentioned, don't be too vague, right? When you have your resume, don't be too vague, be specific about what you want. Need to have relevant examples, all right? Photoshop, I know this is with Joe and his, experiment with different color ranges. He did a good introduction of how to do that, all those different things. Kenan was talking about smart objects, artboards, how to use those, how to be smart with those, and how those smart objects really translate and make your process a lot quicker. Interviewing, be prepared, that's huge. You know, find a way to weave in your story. We talked about that. We're making sure that you are personal to who you are. You've heard it all over board with this panel. Be authentic, be who you are. And then follow up with an email and a written letter. Make sure that's a big part of it. Make sure you do that. Portfolio review. Ensure your cover letter is authentic. Social media is an extension of you. Always remember that. Narrow down your portfolio to showcase your best work. I know a lot of them talked about that. Quality over quantity. And then know your audience and use your platform that fits to your needs and best represents your work. A couple other things paving your way. I just want to give a quick overview so you guys can recap some of this. You know, plant the seed that you are thinking about making that jump to freelance. You know, I think Sammy or somebody mentioned that is if you're going in that direction, make sure you plant that seed, letting people know. You know, the boundaries, you know, is the key word. You know, need to set boundaries for yourself and your clients, and develop and lean on your support system. That was a big one I think we really touched on there. Network for jobs. Show genuine interest in the people that you reach out to and be respectful. You know, that's a big part of it. Don't be intimidated by reaching out to someone who inspires you. I think that was the other thing that we mentioned is you look up to somebody, you want to be like them, reach out to them, DM them, whatever you want to do, make sure that you are a part of their conversation and how you can be a part of that conversation and reaching out to them. Mental health, I mean, that was huge. I think we've all were captivated by what they said. I don't have to recap that too much. Chris, David, who else was in that? Zach, part of that too. I mean, awesome. If you guys don't get inspiration from that, I don't know what you do. That was an awesome panel session right there. And then of course the last one you kind of just heard there too. So just want a real quick recap of what we did. You know, like we said, what we're here for is to connect, to have fun, to enjoy what we're doing, being creative, really learn the next steps in your career of what you can do, how you can do things, and kind of learn from that. What else you got, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you all for coming, especially the speakers and everyone who attended. I learned so much. I mean, the intention behind this was almost a little selfish because I wanted to get everyone in this room to learn from. I want to talk a little bit about the future of College Create. Like, I think this was a great launching point for us, and get it together.
How many years?
But yeah, like I think I know we started last fall about it, but we really want to take this summer and expand on it and build a nationwide network of it. So I know everyone looking on Zoom. I know this experience hasn't been the best on Zoom, and thankful for everyone coming in person. And I think this is a great base to get started on. And I look forward to the future.
Natalie's thanking us from Lubbock, Texas. Rackham.
Thumbs up.
Go Red Raiders.
But yeah, I just want to thank you all.
Yeah, appreciate you guys coming. Like I say, we've got one more session here with everybody, but appreciate you guys investing in this and continue to grow and learn. And we have a network right here of everybody, so continue to invest in that.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, well, we have some guests who have joined us. Corey, would you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. Corey Faber. I currently work for Orange Brown Media as the Senior Director of Community Engagement, Talent and Culture, CCAD alum, OSU alum, via the athletic department. I worked with Andy for several years. And then I worked for the university marketing side as well, where I was an art director for UI and digital design. So happy to be here, share some jewels with you guys, and look forward to a great conversation. So thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Kyle Robertson.
Hey everyone, Kyle Robertson, staff photographer at the Cool Dispatch. Do a lot of sports and a bunch of other stuff. So we have good photos. We'll have you look at her, go through and that. So thank you for being here, and it's been great listening to everyone, and can't wait to talk to everyone else.
Awesome. Addison Skaggs.
Hi guys, I'm Addison. I'm the creative director for football. Me and my team, Ohio State football. My team and I handle all things social, graphics, video, basically all creative content for the team. But I'm happy and excited to meet you guys.
Awesome. So what we wanted to provide was the next literally half hour, but right on time, you did a job. Is for you to meet with any and all of these people who are here. So there's people that you've heard from, there's our new friends that have joined us. Now is the time for you to put those networking skills to work. If there's something that you would like them to look at, some portfolio work or your resume, or you want to talk about opportunities, internships, these are the people that have the expertise that can help you. And I see that we have our friends that have joined on Zoom. So I'm gonna close the Zoom up here, and I'm gonna open that on the table right here. That's what I was trying to do before. So that if you want to come and talk with Mo or Mary Kate, that you can come and have a conversation with them in a more intimate setting around my laptop. So on your marks, get set, go.